Good day and welcome to today's discussion of understanding the self, wherein we would be talking about the digital self. So the learning outcomes for today's discussion would be the following. First is define the online identity, compare real identity versus online identity, and lastly, describe the influence of the internet on sexuality and gender. Okay. So the digital self. When we talk about the digital self, this would be the evaluation by oneself of one's worth as an individual in distinction from one's interpersonal or social roles. Our interactions with other people would influence our behavior, no, our personality, our expression of ourselves. But it's also undeniable that the internet, the things that we see online, whether it's through vlogs, through blog posts, no, videos, or whatever, could influence the self or us. No? We would often associate ourselves to a particular influencer or a particular vlogger or a celebrity. No, we might be able to relate to them, no, and to actually interject, no, or mimic some of the behaviors or the personalities that we see online. Now, the number of people who are becoming more active online continues to increase worldwide. As the population increases, so does the people who are connected online through the internet. Almost two-thirds of the world population now has a mobile phone. A few decades ago, 1 or 2 decades ago, the mobile phone or the cell phone isn't that accessible to everyone. No. Back then, everything was wired. It was only landline or payphones that as the means of communication. Back then, we also had the fax machine. Okay. Now, if you are meeting with someone, no, you've set an appointment with a person, you have to show up. Why? Because you don't have a means to text the person, no, or to call the person, because not everybody had a mobile phone. No. So if you had an appointment, you have to show up. No. You couldn't cancel in the last minute. But right now, no, almost everybody would have a cell phone already. Whether it's a smartphone, no, most of us would already have a smartphone, or even the old button one. No. But bottom line is that majority of us already has a cell phone. And even children or toddlers, they would already have a phone or know how to use a phone. No? At a very young age, they already have a phone or that they already know how to use one. Sometimes they would borrow from their parents. No? They're very techy already, despite being a very young age. So more than half of the world's web traffic now comes from mobile phones. Back then, everything was wired connection. No, we didn't have the mobile data. We didn't have the Wi-Fi. So back then, internet was reserved only for computers or for laptops with LAN cable. No, that is a wired connection to the internet. Okay, but now we have your Wi-Fi. We now have your broadbands, your mobile data that allows us to connect through the internet through our mobile phones. More than half of all mobile connections around the world are now broadband. Particularly for cell phones, no, you have your mobile data, and as technology advancement, it allows us, as technology advances, it allows us to connect with the internet faster. Back then, it was only 2G, no, that's only for calls and texts with very slow data, no, or speed rather. But now we have the 5G that allows us to have a very fast internet connection, no, depending on the signal, right? Now, media users in the Philippines grew by 12 million or 25%, while the number of mobile social users increased by 13 million or 32%. In this modern and most challenging level of technology-led changes in society lies the internet, a global collection and connection or network of individual selves that is able to find expression that goes beyond all cultural restrictions. Back then, we likened the physical self as a computer, the hardware, the container, the CPU, etc. No? So the computer, no? We also talked about spirituality and how we liken it to a computer connected to other computers or to the internet. Now we're talking about the computers and the internet in the literal sense, wherein each post that we see online is actually a representation or an expression of an individual. That's why we say that it is a global collection, no? A connection of individual selves. This is literally computers wherein behind each computer is a person, no? A person who posts things online, no? And once it's posted, that's an expression or that's a part of the individual self of that person who posted it. No, even you, when you post things online, that's an expression or that's part of your digital self. No, that's you expressing yourself in the digital world. No, and these individual selves in the internet or the digital world can be seen in the form of profiles or avatars. Your Facebook profiles, wherein you have your profile pictures. No? You post different photos, different texts, etc., different videos. No? You also have your avatars. These are characters that a person would make to represent himself or herself in the platform. Okay, the avatar may look like the person, no, as a way to represent the person, or sometimes it's like a fantasy, no, or something that they'd like to be. So they create avatars that doesn't look like them, that doesn't represent them, but it's something that they want to look like. No? So these profiles, these avatars are apparent in different types of platforms, whether it's for professional networks such as your LinkedIn, your job street, wherein you post your accomplishments, your resume, so that you could connect with other people, no, in the same field, in the same profession as you. You also have your social networks, your Twitter, your Instagram, your Facebook, etc., that allows you to connect with other people, and recreational networks such as your Pinterest, no. So this is where you could see or browse for your hobbies, your DIYs. Now, despite having these profiles or these avatars as a representation of the self, everything that we see online doesn't necessarily mean that they are true. No, not everything that we see online are true. On social networks, one might choose to appear as living a grandiose life, again, regardless of the truth in one's real life. So they could fake it. They could create a version of themselves that are better so that they could get likes. No? Particularly for influencers and for bloggers. No? They would usually post good things but don't show you the bad things, which to our end, or at our end rather, it makes us feel bad because they make it look so easy, but we aren't able to see the process, no? The difficult ones and the bad sides of the things that they post. No? In dating platforms, sometimes we would create or people would create profiles that aren't realistic or that aren't their real selves in order to get swipes, in order to get connections. No? This is what we call catfishing. Now, in terms of gaming, creators of video games have an almost monopolistic hold in the definition of a digital body. Why? Particularly in RPGs or role-playing games, no? Wherein you're able to create a character, no? To customize the character to however you want to look like, no? So as you create your avatar, as you create your characters, that character or that avatar could be whatever you want it to be. No. So players of these games step into that digital world through the character that they take on and thus immersing his or herself as its inhabitant in an entirely different reality, totally separate from the physical world. Okay. So when a player plays these types of games, no, they're able to create their own version of their self that is separate from the physical world or what's actually real. Okay. They're able to live their fantasies and their desires through the game. Okay. Like for example, as I mentioned earlier, when a person creates an avatar, no, or a player or a character, it might be of the opposite sex, no, because that's how a person wants to be, no, or in terms of physique. Uh, if you are a chubby person, then sometimes you would create a muscular fit one because that's an expression of how you want to be. That's why there are some people who get addicted to games, setting aside a means of coping or a means of relaxation. Some people are addicted to games because they see it as something that's better than reality. They're able to live their fantasies. They are able to do whatever they want online, no, through the games, no, do what they want. No, that's why they say that the digital world is better, no? Because they're free in contrast with the physical world wherein there are restraints, no? There are problems that they have to deal with, no? But in the digital world, they can be whatever they want and do whatever they want. Now, just to show you some statistics, no, the digital around the world in 2019. So the growth of digital users, the total population is around 7.67 billion. Unique mobile users is around 5.11 billion. Internet users is around 4.38 billion. Active social media users is around 3.48 billion. And mobile social users, wherein these are people who use their mobile phones to connect through social media, we have 3.2 billion. Total number of active internet users, or the percentage of mobile internet users, we have 4.38 billion. Users as a percentage of the total population, we have 57%. Total number of active mobile users, internet users rather, would be 3.98 billion. While mobile internet users as a percentage of the total population, we have 52%. Now, just some smart sharing tips, no? Setting boundaries to your online self. So these are just some guidelines to help you share information online in a smart way that will protect yourself and not harm others before posting or sharing anything online. You might want to ask yourself the following questions. Okay. First is ask yourself, is this necessary? Do I really need to post this photo or this post? No. Now, if it's not, then maybe consider not posting it. No? If it's not necessary, then simply don't post it. But if you think that you really want to or that you need to, then ask yourself the next question. Is there a real benefit to this post? Is it funny? No? Would people laugh at it? Is it warm-hearted? Is it teachable? Is it something that's motivational for other people? Or are you just making noise online without any person? For short, papansin ka lang. You just want to be noticed by other people. Okay? So ask yourself the question, what is the purpose? No? Why am I posting this post to begin with? That's one way to evaluate whether you should post or not the thing that you'd like to post. Next is, have we, as a family or as a parent or as a child, no, or whether you're in a relationship, no, have resolved this issue? This is particular for people who are in conflict or having an argument at the time. Some would post their arguments or their conflicts immediately, even before resolving it, which would often lead the conflict to grow. Why? Because the other person might say that, why do you have to post it online? No, we could have talked about it privately. We could have addressed it privately. Why do you need to involve the digital world or the people online? No? So if it's possible, try to resolve the conflict first, no? Rather than just simply posting it immediately online without kung saan you're being carried by your emotions. Are the posts or the things that you post aligned with your family values? Does it stay with the boundaries of your family values or your personal values? If not, then maybe reconsider not posting it. Will this seem as funny in 5 to 10 years or 15 years? No? Sometimes we post because it's funny. You know, at the moment it is, but sometimes that post doesn't age well, right? So make sure that it would still be funny, no, after 5, 10, or 15 years. Why? Because these posts might come to bite you back, no, or come back to you, especially when you're already applying for a job and you have your prospective employers. No, they see these posts and they see that these are not aligned with their company values, so that might cost you your job. Now, some rules to follow according to New 2014. So these are guidelines for proper sharing of information and ethical use of the internet. First is to stick to safer sites. No? As much as possible, make sure that the websites that you visit are secure and that they are safe. Especially now during the COVID pandemic, wherein we are required to do contact tracing, we would leave our emails or phone numbers, and that our personal information are accessible by other people, which allows them to fish us, or what we call phishing. No, this is when hackers would try to fish out information from you so that they could access more sensitive information, and then hopefully hack your account, no, or hack your bank account and things like that. So make sure that you don't just give away your personal information. Make sure that you don't just click websites without checking them. Guard your passwords. Make sure that it's only you who knows your password. Do not give it to anyone. No? Make sure to change it from time to time. Limit what you share. You don't have to post everything. You don't have to share everything, especially when it's very sensitive. No, and sometimes not sharing or not posting could give you peace of mind. Why? Because sometimes when you keep on posting and posting, and then you're giving avenue to people to comment back, no, to say things about you, no, and sometimes you get frustrated why the person has so many comments on you, simply because there's a lot of things that they see in you that they could comment on. Remember that anything you put online or post on a site is there forever, even if you try to delete it. No, other people might have already made a copy of it. Other people might have downloaded it already or reposted it already. So make sure that when you post something online, no, make sure that it's okay. Make sure that you've already contemplated on it, no, because it will be there forever. And as I've discussed earlier, no, if you have prospective employers in the future and they did a background check on you, no, make sure that your profile is clean. Do not be mean or embarrass other people online. We have what we call keyboard warriors. No, these are people who are strong, who are very brave behind the keyboard, but aren't as tough or as brave when it comes to confronting face to face. A simple guide for us, no, in terms of communicating or interacting online is that how you communicate or how you interact in the real world should be similar with how you talk with with people online. Make sure that the things that you say online you could also say in front of the face of other people. No, uh, make sure that you don't troll. Make sure that you don't try to embarrass or be mean to other people online. And also, always tell if you see strange or bad people online. Facebook now has means to report various errors or various posts, no? Whether if you think the person is putting harm or is a threat to himself or herself or to others, no, you could report the person so that that person might receive help. Okay. If the person you think is doing illegal things, no, or if that page is doing bad things or illegal things, make sure to report the page or the post, no, especially when it comes to spreading fake news. Be choosy about your friends online. Don't just simply add people or accept followers for the sake of gaining more followers or friends. Sometimes we might have this false sense of fame when we think that our followers are more than the people we follow. No, we think that we're famous, so we just accept people to follow us. But there are people who creates these accounts so that they could just get sensitive information from you. No? Next is be patient. Don't just be carried away by your emotions and immediately post your rants. Because sometimes, we post things and then later on regret it. But after we post it, it's there already. No, people have already seen it. No? So it's important that we are patient and that we contemplate things before we post them. And moving on to our last section, gender and sexuality online. The difference between the common understanding of these terms and how researchers think about them yield key insights about the social functioning of gender. So gender is historical. It is produced by media and popular culture. It is taught by families, schools, peer groups, and nation states. It is reinforced through songs, saying, admonitions, language, fashion, and discourse. And it's deeply ingrained. In our discussion of gender, we say that this is how a person identifies. And how a person identifies is influenced by the things that he sees online. No, he or she may identify with the attitude or with the behavior of an internet personality. So he or she may adopt it, no, and later on express it in his or her gender and sexuality. And to conclude, do whatever it takes to feel real again, not what will get follows or views. Do things because it makes you happy. Post them because it makes you happy. No, it motivates you. Don't just simply create posts or post online to get followers. No. Don't just simply ride the trend for the sake of being hip or for the sake of getting followers or likes or views. No. But rather do things, post them because you feel real, because you like what you're doing. That concludes today's discussion of the digital self. I hope that you were able to learn something. Good day.